What I want to talk about today is money. I like money. Where did that come from?
Oh, I like money.
You got it. So, when we talk about money, what images does that conjure up in your head? Maybe a CEO, goal focused, cold hearted, one who will tread over you just to climb the ladder and get even more money. One who exploits others, who is cold and unfeeling. Or other images. A materialist who's superficial, not focused on people, focused on money, accumulating, hoarding. Now, wait a minute, where have these images come from? Three guesses. Hollywood. Remember a film called Reality Bites? Generation X film. It's a good example. Winona Ryder is the main character. I think she's just left college, and there's two guys, two suitors that she is being courted by. One is Ben Stiller, and he plays an exec, like an advertising exec, and he's got a job, well focused. He's a bit smarmy and slick, but you know. And the other one's a frigging loser, a sad frigging loser that she's got some chemistry with, called who was it? Actor Ethan Hawke. And of course, she goes with Ethan Hawke because that's the Hollywood way. Money doesn't buy you happiness, or does it? Why does money and happiness have to be mutually exclusive? I want to know why. Why does being focused on a goal and getting money to attain that goal mean that you're automatically a materialist? What if I like money and I'm sentimental and compassionate and I'm empathetic? Is that possible? Not if you were to believe the narrative. Not if you were to lap up the narrative like the mainstream does. Now, let's take a step back. In a more socialist country, and remember I've lived in quite a few more socialist countries, maybe not socialist on the scheme of things, but socialist relative to the United States. I've lived in Scandinavia, I've lived in Finland, Sweden, obviously from the UK, I've lived in Germany. If you complain there about your high taxes, about your sales tax, about where your money goes, if you question where your money goes, you're nearly always fed the same answer. Stop being so selfish. Stop being so selfish. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Just get on with it and stop being so selfish. You know. It's like you're a criminal. It's funny because taxation is theft. Taxation is state-sanctioned theft. And the people who advocate it are usually people who have nothing and don't want to do anything. So they're basically using state-sanctioned theft to try and fill their coffers. And somehow that's seen as virtuous, but trying to save and keep what you've earned is not. It's always confused me. To me, money is the lifeblood of a meritocracy. It's as simple as that. You can't have a meritocracy without money, without some form of currency. Money is really a bartering system. But we'll go more into that later. The other thing that always amuses me is people who criticize and complain about women. Women chase money, they only want rich guys. I agree that gold diggers are not desirable. I agree that chasing money as an end in itself isn't a great goal. But if you think about the traits and characteristics it takes for someone to try and build wealth, so they're being aspirational, goal-driven, achievement-driven, conscientious, industrious, have a high IQ, typically. There's some correlation between IQ and, amongst other traits, people skills, influencer skills, so on and so forth. Those are traits that are desirable for anyone that's sane in anyone's book, really. So, money, for women being focused on that, I don't think it's a bad thing. And it's something that you can improve about yourself. So I think it has more validity than just solely focusing on physical traits, which people don't complain about there. So my message to people who whine about people who've got, women that are going after guys with money is this: get over it. And a lot of them are MGTOW people that complain about it. Get over it. And if you really care, because I really don't give a shit what women want, but if you really do care, then do something and earn that more money if you really think it makes such a big difference. I don't think it makes that much of a big difference, because I think most women go for the top 10%, and it's not just money, they want the whole deal, because it's become so ridiculous, and I've given up caring. But if you care about it and you're using the money that you apparently lack as an excuse, do something about it and stop complaining. So, the other one, money doesn't buy you happiness. This is a load of bollocks. I'm going to give an example. Several years ago, over 20 years ago, there was a woman I was courting. I was very interested in her. God knows why, I must have had brain damage. But as you do when you're younger. She was from Sweden. And in this case, I had a friend, a supposed friend. We all have these kinds of friends. You later wonder why I had them as a friend, but at that time, And he was competing with me, because that's what friends do, right? Twat. Scottish fucking tosser. But anyway, he was competing with me for this woman. What an idiot. You know what? I invested in a coal card, and I was phoning up Sweden regularly, like every day. And I flew over there, and she was mine. And we had a relationship, and it was, in the scheme of things, quite long-lasting. My point is, money in this case did buy me happiness, because it ended up allowing me to build a relationship with her, influencing her, and ultimately leading to, relationship. And even though it didn't last, it enriched me. So all this bullshit about money not buying you happiness is crap. It's a means to an end, and it's very often vilified. So with money often comes status, and I think it's interesting because if you look at many surveys and much data, women are infinitely more status conscious. Now, yes, I'm generalizing, but hey, we're generalizing. That's what we do. Women are the most status conscious when you put women against men. I don't know why that is. When they get married, they're either the ones that put pressure on men to move into upscale neighborhoods with tiny little yards or gardens, and in the end, the result is the couple have become house poor because their mortgage is massive, way beyond their means. They end up pushing the men to waste money on gimmicky, status-driven bullshit cars rather than cars with substance and function that work really, really well for their task. I don't know what that is. Yeah, it's interesting. And this all goes and leads nicely, the next segue, to a poverty mindset versus a wealth mindset. A wealth mindset to me is connected to saving, planning, and working towards a goal, and then sacrificing the now, because I see saving is sacrificing the now, investing for the future. That's what you're doing. You're investing for the future. Whereas a poverty mindset is short-termism. It's spending now, actually sacrificing your future to spend now, living in the now, short-termism, not thinking about the future, no planning, getting into debt, and then sacrificing your future so you become a debt slave. I hear justifications for it. You might die tomorrow. Yeah, you might die tomorrow. I mean, how far are you going to take that argument? You're going to take crack and heroin until you're on the street? Just for, how far do you take that argument? You know, I mean, I know people in there, but and they buy way beyond their means. But to be honest, it's a growth industry. It's pervasive in our culture right now. It's the instant gratification culture that we live in. Short-termism, big industry, and I see this amongst a lot of left-leaning nihilists usually, and they're poverty thinkers because they're sensualists. So, wealth mindset versus poverty mindset. And this leads us onto the next topic, which is what we're seeing in America now. What I came from in the UK was an extreme jealousy culture. If you had achieved and you saved up for a Porsche or whatever, or a Ferrari, it would it would get smashed and scratched. And I saved up. My dad passed away, and I got this 911 Turbo, and I love this thing. Still have it, and it was scratched. And it wasn't. You don't really have good and bad neighborhoods. You do to a degree, but it's all mixed because of some utopian vision by the lefties of mixing different demographics and bullshit like that. So you had basically a mixing of crime, regardless of Gini coefficients. So you have this culture that's very bitter and jealous because if someone has something, regardless of how it was earned, the entitled losers who are given a lot in the UK expect it to be theirs. It's quite a disgusting, insidious thing. And it was never here in America. That's why America was so attractive. And what we're seeing now is America transitioning away from this aspirational culture, as I call it, to this kind of entitled Bernie bro culture, where they're entitled and they want everything for themselves. And you see Antifa in the streets smashing things up because they don't have anything. It's nothing to do with racial inequality. So, and from this, we see capitalism is vilified, usually by these same Bernie bros who are too stupid and thick to realize that what we have now is more crony capitalism and corporatism with lots of short-termism rather than pure capitalism. The short-termism is driven by New York Wall Street and heavy borrowing, lending by pushy investors. The investors invest in companies, big companies, corporatist companies, and they want their return on investment every quarter, which means that the companies can't invest big amounts into their chosen craft and field. The investors don't care. They just want their return on investment. And what you also have is manipulation of currencies and stocks by the vulture capitalists who basically want to cash out and get their short-term gains. So this is they're big losers in this, and this is what a lot of people who criticize capitalism don't understand. They're too simple thinking to understand that capitalism is a bartering system where you're trading goods, but you have money because money is a way of liquidating this bartering system. Which leads me on to the next topic, which is I've heard people talk about getting rid of money, usually the left. Years ago, I had this, I don't want to call her a girlfriend, I don't know what it was, but anyway, kind of had slept together and stuff, and she was pretty clever and introspective, but she was left-leaning. We stayed friends, and she always ended up with these losers. I don't know what that says about me, but anyway. And this guy she was with, she was obsessed with him. He was an idiot, and he was a drug addict, and he was a frigging nut job. And he was a conspiracy theorist, and he believed the earth was flat. He talks about getting rid of money and how we need a reset. Of course we need a reset, because you're a frigging loser in the system, in the scheme of things. Even though you come from a decent background, He was basically living off her. And usually you find people like that, these conspiracy theorist nut jobs, and she says stuff like, oh, but society needs to step up. We've stepped up enough, twat. They're the ones that want a reset because they see the haves and have-nots, and they're in the have-not category, and they really want something for nothing, basically. But the problem is, money is a motivation reward system. It's a bartering system that's motivation driven. Motivation is a reward system, and so staying with the theme of getting rid of money, there was a startup company called Symbi I came across, and their banner was "Your money is no good here," and it was said I could almost imagine it being said in this tone of smugness, smugness directed towards these filthy people who'd bothered to work hard and save, these filthy people who'd had the guile to actually think long term, work hard, and save when other people can't be bothered to do it and they're the victims. Yeah, okay, I'm probably reading too much into it, but am I? What are the implications of so this Symbi startup? Basically, it was about getting rid of money and a simple bartering system of trading recipes and foods and crafts to trade like the old days. And I'm thinking, okay, fair enough. And then I thought about it deeper, and I thought, what are the implications of this? How do you put value on something very abstract? If you look at modern society, we have very abstract specialist skills. If you think about how things are made, phones, and I'm talking about the engineering of a phone or a car or a sophisticated piece of technology, it's not one person that did it or does it. It's often one person who knows really, really in depth about a specific part of it. Someone might know about the plastics or the casting of a piece of equipment, or they may know about the combustion, the fast burn of a diesel engine, or they might know about the atomic structure and chemicals of something. And it's usually that one person is specialist, and there's a whole group of these people. How are they going to barter their skills? Are they going to get a nice, good round meal for their skills in atomic physics, or their skills in casting, or I don't know, solar energy? Solar energy is probably more appreciated, but there's a lot of these skills that are not appreciated by the mainstream. In fact, the mainstream will use these skills indirectly from the equipment they buy without realizing it, you know. And that is where this Symbi model is just fucking naive and stupid. Because if you had this society, there's some aspects that was based on Symbi, that was based on a bartering simple system of trading skills. Okay, it would be targeting big corporations, and I'm no great lover of big corporations, and I do like small businesses. But if you just focused on very, very local economy, you would lose a lot. You would lose a lot of the modern technology that we have. And yes, a lot of the modern technology we have is gimmicky and designed to just, but a lot of it's bloody fucking amazing. 3D print technology. You think 3D printers, the specialist involved, their skills could be easily traded for a good square meal. Be doing them a great disservice. Because there is also a marketplace of these skill sets and how much they're worth. You can't just do away with that. So this new age kind of Symbi, money reset, we need to get rid of money, Star Trek type of thing, doesn't work. The interesting thing is Star Trek would often talk about getting rid of money, and the irony is a lot of the technology that you see in this science fiction show like Star Trek wouldn't even exist. It couldn't exist because they're so specialist. There needs to be a motivational reward bartering system in place that you could liquid very easily and very quickly, because you can't just trade for loads and loads of meals very, very quickly, because you have an expertise in transporter technology or warp design and dilithium crystals, Anyway, but that goes into socialism and the people's motivation to work, and that's a whole different deal, which we could cover some other time. But that is where I was coming from. The next interesting thing is, again, the vilification of money. And I've heard religious people on the right talk about Jesus giving up his worldly possessions and his money, and how you need to drop money because money is evil and the love of money is evil. Well, I'm no religious Bible expert, but it's not the love of money is evil. It's not that money is evil. It's when money is the sole focus, and you make money and material stuff your gods. That's what my interpretation is. But it's interesting because people still say the same bullshit because they're too thick. they're similar to the nihilistic libtards that say the same thing, the left-wing kind of New Age people. On the conservative religious side, it comes from the fear of people losing sight of God, because you must be focused 100% on God rather than this other stuff. But my problem with it is it's similar to Buddhism in that they talk about being wisely detached. If you're passionate about something, you have to be attached. You've got to be passionate and driven. So my problem with vilified idolatry and talking about not being attached to stuff is if you're passionate and you want to drive a very good product, you need to be obsessed with it to make the best. So going back again on the right wing nuts talk about materialism and money stuff and getting rid of money and all this stuff. The left wing nuts say the same thing. So it's kind of funny. It kind of reminds me of the tradcon outlook versus the lefty nihilistic viewpoint. Much like it reminds me of communism, the collectivist. Communism collectivism versus white supremacy collectivism, because they're both forms of collectivism, but they've gone full circle. Now, some people call white supremacy extreme right wing, which I don't know if it deserves that banner. It's a load of bullshit, but they're both collectivist philosophies, and it's funny because they've gone full circle, because communism is often labeled as being extreme left. So, now going back again, I think it's interesting because going back to where money and CEOs and people who've worked hard into companies are vilified, and inevitably it's often viewed by a big segment of society as being done through exploitation. I'm pretty much self-made. Some years ago, after the last crash, I was in a lot of doo-doo. I really was in a lot of trouble. I moved over here, lost my job, and I was basically camping out of my truck. I had to live in my truck. And what made it for me was my work ethic, my stance, attitude, my conscientiousness and industriousness, even my willpower to succeed. That's how I made it. If I can do it, anyone else can. So when I see entitled twat faces whining, pisses me off, and I think it's pretty much unfounded. Envy and jealousy. So it's life goals versus nihilism, and it's all about belief. Another time, I was in a big company, done okay for myself. Due to some politics, suddenly there was a cutbacks in each job, and it's pretty galling when you put everything into your job. There's the whole thing about women being human beings and men being human doings. I was firmly in the human doings camp. My whole self-esteem was tied to my job. Very dangerous, I know. And I lost it, and I lost a part of me. I had health problems afterwards, which it was shocking that physical health problems could manifest themselves because of something that had happened in my career. And you start to lose faith in yourself. You start to lose stock in yourself. And I remember seeing a show, and it was Serenity, the Firefly show. And in the film, when the preacher dies, he grabs Malcolm Reynolds, who's with him when he dies, and he looks in his eyes and he goes to him, believe. You got to believe. And he goes, it's not to do with religious faith. It's belief. Believe in something. And that's, again, to do with being attached to something, being and those words really resonated with me. And I think the reason they resonated was years ago, when I was a kid, and I was very left-leaning and didn't believe in dominance hierarchies and any kind of hierarchies, and I was kind of pretty much entitled, as you are when you're young. My dad said to me, always remember that you're the best. You have to remember you're the best of the best, and you're set to achieve great things. And I remember thinking when I was a kid, what an arrogant, stupid thing to say. And it wasn't stupid at all. My dad meant the best for me. We weren't close. And it was like seeds, because years later, when I'd lost my job, that belief phrase from Serenity, and along with my dad's word, like seeds that had grown, took so many years to grow, really touched me. because I thought I have to believe in myself and what I achieved. I have to focus on what I have done rather than lose it. So what does this have to do with money? Everything. Belief, life goals, and money being a symbol of conscientiousness, stance, attitude, and work ethic, really. And with that, I'm going to call it quits tonight. Stay strong, brothers. And remember, MGTOW rising.